Good afternoon to you all. Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Charles Jackson. Welcome back to a week 2 edition of high school football final. Last week, I missed the stream. I had to take care of some personal business with my family. So, we're back at it again. Week 2, a lot of things happened this week. I hope everybody was okay for the effects of Hurricane Idalia. My family's okay. I pray your family was okay too. But let's go hop right into it. A few games got postponed due to the effects of Hurricane Idalia. About 11 games to be count is actually being postponed or even canceled for this week's action. But there's 2 games that actually made up. Bradford County will take on the Baldwin Indians in Baldwin today at 6:30. That game was supposed to play yesterday in Baldwin, but that game will move to Stark. So the Tornadoes of Bradford will host the Baldwin Indians instead of traveling to Baldwin. And also Monday, the Denali Tigers will travel to North Bay and take on the Colts. That game will take place on Monday at 7. So those 2 games will actually move to different dates. The other 9 games around the area was pushed back or even canceled. So those 2 games will happen today and Monday. But there's some games that happen throughout the state, throughout the North Florida, Central Florida area. And let's go hop right into it. I'm truly excited once again to be back for another high school football final. Let's go ahead and get to it. As you can see, if you look at the top left corner, we have our subscribe meter. We're at 526 right now. Try to get to that illustrious 1,000. We're halfway there. Y'all continue to like, subscribe, support the grind we have here on the channel. Will be truly appreciated. Truly appreciate our sponsor for today's video, Amazon affiliates. I have a code for a 30-day free trial for all new Prime customers for Amazon. Thank you to Amazon Associates with today's sponsor. Let's hop on today's videos. Today's scores from yesterday's games. A few games got canceled and postponed, like I said at the beginning of the video. There's some pretty good football games happening throughout the Central Florida area. We're going to hop into our game of the week. Took place in Newberry. The defending Class 1R state champion Hawthorne Hornets traveled to take on a Newberry team who won their opener. Both teams started the season 1-0. Hawthorne took care of business last week against Middleburg. Newberry put up a shutout against Santa Fe last week. These 2 teams took place in Newberry. Hawthorne was up as much 27-10 at halftime, but the Hornets 40-10 victories over the Newberry Panthers. Big win for Coach Cornelius Ingram and his guys. A very tough Hawthorne team came to play, but just Hawthorne was just too powerful and too physical for the Panthers. Next week, Newberry will be back in action again. The Panthers will take on Westport, while Hawthorne will take on Terry Parker out of Jacksonville in Hawthorne. Another game that happened also, Eastside, undefeated after a huge win. They took care of Keystone Heights today out there in Clay County. The Rams took care of business through 5 touchdown passes through the air. 35-0 shutout over the Indians. First 2 of those start for Eastside in quite a while. Congratulations to those guys for Eastside. Keystone Heights off to a rough start. The Indians, I believe, are now 0-2. Eastside has a showdown at Citizens Field next Friday against the interstate rival, the Buchholz Bobcats. Both teams are 2-0. We'll get the Buchholz in a few minutes. Keystone next week. They'll be back in action. I believe Keystone will play Fort White at home next week. So the Indians looking to get their first win of the year next week against the Indians from Fort White. Also, Interlochen, who was undefeated last year, winners of their conference last year, unfortunately off to a rough start. They got shut out last week by Union County on the road. This week they're on the road to Jacksonville, take on the Paxton School. And the Paxton School Eagles took care of business easily, shutting out Interlochen. Interlochen falls 0-2. The Rams will be back in action next week, as Interlochen will take on, I believe, Crescent City at home next week, looking to get their first victory on the year for the Interlochen Rams. Another game that took place, Williston was supposed to actually play somebody this week. Supposed to be, I don't know who the school was, but Williston actually made up their game that was supposed to be canceled this week. They made a trip out there to Jacksonville to take on the First Coast Pirates. And Coach Pruitt and guys it was just a high scoring game. But Williston made the trip to Jacksonville and left victorious as the Red Devils win 53-36. They go to 2-0. Big win for Williston as they make the long trip to Jacksonville. Thanks, big rush effort for the Red Devils. Excuse my language. Big win for Williston. They host Land O'Lakes next week at home. The Williston Red Devils off to another good start in year 2 of the Coach Pruitt. Another game that also went final. Chiefland took on Wildwood, a battle of 0-1 teams. And it's the Chiefland Indians. Gets their first win of the year. They win 50-32 over Wildwood. Big win for Chiefland. Chiefland next week. We'll be back in action again as the Indians take on Swanee in a battle down there in Live Oak. Wildwood, with disappointed loss, they're 0-2. They'll host AAC Academy out of Winter Haven, Florida. Another game that also went final, GHS in an 11-game losing streak. They're in action last night in a soggy Citizens Field. They took on the Leon Lions out of Tallahassee, Florida. And as the Lions making that almost 3-hour drive from Tallahassee to Gainesville, they put up a shutout against GHS. The Lions win 21-0. GHS has now lost 12 games consecutive, dating back to last season. The Hurricanes will look to get their first win of the season next week as they take on another team who hasn't won a game yet this year. The Ocala Trinity Catholic Celtics down there in Ocala. Leon still remains undefeated on the year. Speaking of Trinity Catholic hosted Clearwater Central Catholic, and the Celtics once again, as I stated a few minutes ago, falls at home. They fall 35-10. The Celtics are going to get their first win of the year in a battle of winless team between GHS and Trinity Catholic next week in Ocala. Also, Eastside, we saw about Eastside 35-0 shutout over Keystone. Santa Fe making a long trip to Lanier County, Georgia. I mean, that's Lakeland, Georgia, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But it was a disappointing trip for the Raiders of Santa Fe as they come back to Alachua. Losers 33-3. They also are on a big losing streak. They hope they will get back in action as Santa Fe looks to get their first win of the year as the Raiders will take on. I'm trying to see who Santa Fe plays. Santa Fe plays Palaca next week. Santa Fe will host the Palaca Panthers next week at home, looking at their first win of the year. Congratulations to Lanier County with a 33-3 victory. Buchholz, like we said, Buchholz a few minutes ago, they'll take on Eastside and battle undefeated teams in Latrobe County. They went to Riverside down there in Sarasota yesterday, and they came back home victorious, a 22-point victory over Riverview. They won 53-31. Buchholz will take on Eastside, the game of the week next week down there in Citizens Field. Let's see a few other games we have that actually went to final there. We had a lot of postponed games. Denellen will play the game against North Marion on Monday at 7. Mandarin took care of business last night against Bowles. They beat the Bulldogs by 7. Ocala Vanguard, big win on the road against Lake Mineola, 35-21. Gadsden County knocks off Rickers 24-7. Ed White knocks off Sanderwood 26-6. Creekside defeats Nice 51-23. Ponte Vedra upsets Florida High 23-22 on the road in Tallahassee. Big win for the Sharks of Ponte Vedra High. Crescent City gets their first win of the year as they shuts out Umatilla 28-0. Crescent City next week will take on Interlocking Rams on the road next week, looking for their second win of the year. Lakeland shuts out Largo as the defending state champs. Shuts out Largo. Childs shuts out Fletcher 31-0. Riverside knocks off Terry Parker 38-0. Terry Parker will have a tough test going to Hawthorne next week to take on the defending Class 1R state champions. University Christian knocks off Tallahassee North Florida Christian 56-23. Trinity Christian, unfortunately, was not the victorious one. They fall down there in Plantation to the American Heritage Patriots 28-6. Palaca's 2-0. They beat Atlantic 19-14. Palaca will take on Santa Fe next week. West Nassau with a big win over there in Folkestone, Georgia, the Charlton County School. They win 22-20. Wakulla shuts out a team from San Francisco, California. Balboa High School as Wakulla wins 41-0. And the final score of this week, Beachside knocks off Freddie the Beach 34-18. Ferdy Beach next week will take on Baldwin in their Week 3 matchup. So those are the scores for all the Week 2 action. I will give you the scores from the Donnell and North Marion game and the Stark Baldwin game in next week's action. Here's all the games for Week 3 before we wrap it up for today. High school scores for Week 3. Wildwood looking to get their first win of the year next week against AAC Academy out of Winter Haven. Chiefly will take on Swanee. Hamilton County, who get one of the few schools that got their game postponed, they will get back on the field and take on Lafayette. Dixie County, who also had a game that was postponed, they'll take on Bronson. Trenton will take on St. Francis Catholic out of Gainesville. And speaking of St. Francis, they was losers of will today to Taylor High School. O'Call won today against Bishop Snyder. They won 34-13. I forgot to mention that score as well. Lake Weir will get back on the field and take on Umatilla. Umatilla was shut out yesterday at the hands of Crescent City. Bell will take on Branford in their rivalry. Fort White will take on Keystone Heights. Keystone Heights was shut out yesterday by the hands of Eastside. Bradford will take the field against Middleburg. Benton County will take on Vieira. Baldwin will take on Ferdy Beach. Our game of the week next week, Eastside 2-0 will take on Buchholz, who's 2-0. Who will lead Citizens Field with a 3-0 record? GHS, unfortunately, is not 2-0. They're the opposite side 2-0. They'll take on Trinity Cafe in a battle of winless teams down there in Ocala. PK Young, who was postponed this week. PK Young was supposed to play Mount Dora. They'll play them this week. They play Mount Dora Christian Academy. Union County, who game against Columbia, was postponed due to Hurricane Idalia and also security threat down there at Columbia High School. Their game was postponed against Columbia, so they'll take the field next week on the road against the Walton Chiefs. Terry Parker out of Jacksonville will take on Hawthorne. Newberry will take on Westport out of Ocala. Williston will take on Orlando Lakes. Donella will take on Ocala Vanguard. Vanguard was victorious yesterday. Ocala Forest versus South Sumter. But Bellevue, the Rattlers, will take on the First Academy School out of Orlando. Palaca will take on Santa Fe, and Crescent City will take on Interlochen. I appreciate everybody tuning into the video this morning, or early this afternoon. We're back here next Saturday with Week 3 scores, stats, and highlights here on the channel. I appreciate everybody tuning in today. Like, subscribe if you're new. Hit the notification bell button if you want to hear some more of these high school stats. We'll be doing this every Saturday, all season long. We're back here next Saturday as the Florida Gators take on McNeese State. I will do a live stream of that game as well. But y'all have a blessed Saturday. Stay safe, stay dry, and stay humble. Y'all have a blessed night.